Bonjour à toutes et à tous, bienvenue pour cette conférence de presse du film Mascarade. Il se trouve que ça sera la dernière conférence de presse d'une équipe de film pour cette 75e édition, donc on va profiter du moment. Avant de vous présenter toute l'équipe, les traditionnelles consignes. Pour les photos, merci de ne pas utiliser de flash, merci si possible de ne pas filmer. Si vous avez des questions, ce qu'on souhaite ardemment, il y a des micros, il y a 2 micros qui vont tourner, faites-nous un signe de la main, présentez-vous,
introduce yourself and tell us who you work for. And then, of course, you'll get an answer from the people up here. I'll introduce everybody. On my left, we have the producer of the film, who's worked often with Nicolas Bedos, François Cros.
Ensuite, on va commencer par les dames.
We'll start with the women.
Elle est juste à côté de François, c'est Emmanuelle DeVos.
Emmanuelle DeVos, who portrays the character of Carol.
Un peu plus loin,
a bit further,
Margot.
As Margot, we have Marine Bach.
Tout là-bas, tout au bout de
at
la
the
table,
far end,
elle joue Jeanne, Laura Morante.
Jeanne or Julia, Laura Morante.
À côté de Laura, il joue
Next to
Adrien,
Laura, Pierre Ninet as Adrian.
À côté d'Emmanuel,
Next to Emmanuel as Simon, François Cluzet.
Et enfin,
And finally,
qui a écrit, réalisé,
the person who wrote and directed and even composed some of the music for the film, Nicolas Bedos.
Nicolas, je vais commencer par
Nicholas, I have a question for you. A year ago, you were here for the closing of the festival, and you were shooting Mascarade. What was the starting point of this film? Why did you want to tell this tale? Where does it spring from? Well, it's a story of our times. It's a story of our lives, our nightmares, our concerns and worries about our relationship with other people. It springs from a lot of things. I try to make films which will enable me
tout ce qui m'interroge, tout ce qui m'excite, tout ce qui
to ask all the questions I have in my head, all the questions about my desires, my hopes. It's all thrown into a sort of suitcase which encloses all these issues, but I don't want things to overflow.
Sur un film. Donc, voilà,
that's the kind of thing that wants me to spend 3 years working on a film. I don't know what the origins are. There's so many. Are there any questions in the room?
Oui, bonjour.
Hello.
Thibaut Azoulay pour Distance Inconnue. Nicolas, bravo pour ce film.
Congratulations on this film. I wanted to know, in
est-ce
terms of the
que
casting,
c'était un choix dès le
whether
départ,
this
de
was a
Marine
choice
et
right
Pierre,
at the outset in terms of Marine and Pierre.
comment était le processus?
How did you go about the casting? Well, it depends on the person.
qui était déjà dans ma
Some things were already in my mind when I was writing the screenplay, and other characters, other choices were by chance. In the case of François Cluzet and Isabelle Adjani,
c'est mes précédents films qui m'ont
my preceding films enabled me
François et
to
Isabelle
gain access to François and Isabelle, because they said to me that they wouldn't be too unhappy to work together one day with me. And I admire both of them, so I listened to what they'd said. And of course, François
il était dans la machine dès le départ.
Was the perfect fit. As soon as I started writing the first part of the script,
il y avait déjà
when I wrote the first lines for Simon, there was a sort of the perfume of François there. Isabelle likewise. As to the other characters, Pierre,
bizarrement, comme un con,
strangely enough, I'm so dumb in life, and I didn't see him in the character of Adrian. I thought he was too well balanced, psychologically speaking, to portray Adrian. The film was inspired by my own chaotic life journey. I met Pierre very young. He was the favorite pupil of my father at the conservatoire. I've been watching his his career ever since he was 18 or 19, and I forgot that he was basically as lost as I was in life. One day, he knew there were auditions that would be taking place, and he said, well, what about if I tried out? Let's talk about your film. And I realized that Pierre Ninet was just perfect. He understood everything. He's an ambassador for Adrien. He gives him a human touch that I don't have, that I don't embody. I think he enables the film to remain likable, despite all the cynicism and the sleaziness in the film. Pierre Ninet is someone who has so much love in him. As for Marine Vacht, who's unbearable in the film, it's a casting error. She was imposed by Pathé. We did what we could. No. Marine just overwhelmed me of the first tests. Maybe she'll blush, but when I filmed Marine,
devant le combo, je parle pour les ignares qui sont dans la salle, c'est le retour vidéo qu'on a sur un tournage.
We had this video return. I had the impression
quand on filme Marine Vacht, on a le sentiment de faire un grand film.
Seeing a really great film.
En direct, sur le plateau.
When you film Marine Vacht, you get the impression that she's just incredible. She's my Romy Schneider.
Et après, je me tais.
Then Emmanuel DeVos.
Bon, je fais partie des gens de ce métier, et je crois que c'est assez unanime.
I think people felt totally unanimously about Emmanuel. Everyone loves her. I've known her for a very long time. I was a little bit embarrassed to offer her a part which doesn't live up to her talent, because Emmanuel, you'd like to spend 2 months with her, and I think I only spent, how long was it? 10 days. I kept apologizing to her and saying, well, sorry, when you have Emmanuel on the set, you have other scripts in mind. But as I've often said to her, it's just our beginnings together. And she played the part with so much talent and sensitivity. I hope Emmanuel will be with me throughout my life. And as to Laura Morante, I'll say something which may appear a bit insolent. France was too small for the part. I didn't find anyone in France who was capable of playing that character. There are so few scenes. The character is inspired by a family friend who really experienced the story that you see in the film. She was overwhelmed by the machismo of this guy who lived not far from here. I was writing the novel that was the basis for the film, and there were about 100 pages about the character, which is played by Laura in the end. And when I adapted my novel to the film, I had to shorten things because there were too many characters, too many things to talk about. I needed an actress with a very rich inner life so that with just 4 scenes you could understand her whole past and her story with Pierre. In France, I'm not saying we don't have fantastic actresses, but I couldn't find exactly what I was looking for, that intelligence, that sense, so to speak. So I said to my casting director, well, Nice isn't far from Italy. Maybe we could have someone of Spanish origin or from somewhere else. Everything's possible because there's something very cosmopolitan in the Nice region. Then Laura sprang to mind, and I said, we've got the right solution. I feel very proud, and please give her a strong round of applause. I'd like to react to what you were saying, Nicolas, but I'll address this question to the actors and actresses. What's Nicolas Bedos like as a director? You have these scenes with Pierre and Marine, which are incredibly romantic, and it's like a ping-pong ball. Everything seems to be so beautifully worked out. Do you rehearse a lot? Is everything preordained?
Oui, Nicolas,
what I really like is that Nicolas
formelle. Déjà,
works a lot on the form. There are lots of generous offerings in the script in terms of the movement of the camera, the actual setting, the right cut concerning the next scene. It's all really worked out. There's so many characters, so he has very specific ideas. I would even go as far as to say that until I'd actually seen the film, there were things I didn't realize when you read the script. Well, I think only Nicolas knew exactly what he wanted to do. And when you see the film, you think, oh, he had all that in his head. One's lost in admiration because Nicolas is a real virtuoso. So he's a real director with us. He's also an actor. He could have more of an approach that focuses on the acting. There's that in addition to what I've just said. I remember one take when she breaks up with me.
Et je trouve que Nicolas m'a dit un truc moi que j'adore.
And Nicolas said something that I really loved.
On travaillait la scène d'un côté.
We were working on the scene. We wanted it to be really emotional. We felt this really served the overall plot.
Il m'a dit on cherchait une émotion et tout.
He said we were looking for the right emotion, and he said to me, "Take time, take your time." The camera was rolling, 35 millimeters. It's quite costly, but he said, "Take your time."
Il me dit, t'es chez toi.
Feel at home. And to say to an actor, feel at home, if you need 7 minutes, take that time. And at the beginning of the shooting, that's fantastic for an actor because you just feel comfortable, you feel at home, you feel confident. He has understood that it's not a job where you find just the right thing right away. He is joyfully patient when it comes to actually delivering things that are a bit more tricky. He says to you, well, just relax, feel at home. So the movement of the camera and other things have been carefully worked out, but in this case, it's a very respectful, pleasant, kind approach. For these two reasons, as an actor, it was a really complete, rich experience. You have the camera, which moves all the time. It's very beautiful, and you feel close to him because he understands what we're doing. He realizes how difficult it is, and he's very much with us. Maureen, what feelings do you remember about working with Nicolas and the other actors and actresses?
J'ai un souvenir d'une grande liberté.
I remember how free we felt.
Tout est mis en place.
Everything was set up. Nicolas, as Pierre was saying, wanted the actors to feel very free and propose their own things, be who they are. He's so very generous and sensitive when he's working with us.
Oui, c'est ça.
So yes, there's so much place and room just to exist. Laura, Emmanuel, François, did you feel similarly? Laura? First of all, I met Nicolas.
Toute seule, on était tous les deux dans un café.
We were just the two of us in a cafe.
Il m'a fait dire quelques répliques. J'étais un peu comme.
He asked me to say some of the lines.
Comment dire, émotionnata.
I felt deeply moved
d'être jugée.
I had the impression I was being judged.
Mais en fait, l'impression que j'avais, c'est que.
The impression I had.
Nicolas, d'abord, il est très bon acteur.
Nicolas, first of all, he's a very good actor himself. He's very familiar with the profession, and he knows full well what he really wants to get. I didn't always understand right away what he wanted, but I sensed that he was leading me to that place, taking me by the hand. It wasn't so much like Pierre and Marine. I felt that he had me and was directing me as though I had reins. I felt it was necessary to be extremely precise. Even having seen the film, however, the things I still don't understand. Maybe it's because of my French, which isn't perfect.
Voilà, donc ça a été l'impression, c'est que
my overall impression is that he is someone who loves acting. That's not always the case. You have excellent directors who don't necessarily pay much attention to the acting per se, but with Nicolas, he loves his actors, and in the two films of his that I've seen, the actors are all wonderful. Even actors I'd never seen before, I was swept away, bowled over. He is a wonderful director, which is very pleasant for the actors. Emmanuel, François? There's something that has always struck me in great directors, and that is why you manage to identify them. You just look at them on the set. They are the indication, the instructions they want to give you. You just look at the director, see how he's acting, how he's talking to the DOP, how he's talking to the team or to the other actors. That's enough for me.
Il est une énorme indication.
He provides all the information you need as an actor.
À suivre le réalisateur qui a.
So it's wonderful as an actor to work with a director. Maybe he spent 2 years working on his film, and he's very present with us. And it's exceptional to have a director who wants to please his actors in that way.
Non, pour vous dire. La grande découverte, c'était l'écriture.
The great discovery in this case was the script, the score. It's so full of information. I read it several times over, not only in order to understand my role, but also the story as a whole. I was swept away by the quality and the density of the script.
Ensuite, plus que les artistes, moi, ce que j'aime, c'est ce qu'il y a derrière. L'humain, quoi.
Is the human side over and above the actual acting. Nicolas is someone who's been beautifully brought up. It's a compliment for his parents. He's also someone who has a tremendous amount of experience. And he's risen above many circumstances. So basically, he's writing about everybody.
Une rencontre entre un bonhomme ou une bonne femme
you see a man and a woman who come together.
Ne pas ou m'enrichir artistiquement. J'ai appris beaucoup grâce à mes partenaires.
Learned so much. I learned so much thanks to my partners, thanks to the part I was playing, thanks to the director. What touches me most is to see how people go about their work as a DOP or another person in the crew. And just to go back to your question, I'd like this press conference to last 7 years.
Un poil plus court, Nicolas. Un poil.
Vivre dedans avec eux.
We could just
ce métier
live the experience. Well, this profession gives us an ideal version of our lives, perhaps. I'd like these people to be my friends, to be my family.
C'est terminé.
I could send a text message
Le fantôme de mon père a été remplacé
to my mother and say, well, it's finished. François is going to replace my father. What remains of the memories of my mother can be replaced by Emmanuel.
C'était très... Non, je ne peux pas raconter ça.
Mademoiselle, question.
Bonjour, Margot Costa pour The Cinema Show. Nicolas, vous avez commencé à parler un petit peu de la genèse de l'œuvre. Je voulais savoir un petit peu au niveau des influences. J'ai l'impression d'avoir vu certains films à travers votre film, comme par exemple Gatsby ou Boulevard du Crépuscule.
or other films in this film. So could you talk about what influenced you in this film? I'll give you a very brief, clear answer, insofar as I can.
Ça serait tellement bien. Quand une référence est trop consciente,
when a reference is too conscious,
je jette la scène.
I usually throw out the scene.
Évidemment gorgé.
Obviously, the film is full of references to other films because I've been extremely fortunate to begin my career as a director quite late.
Et puis on m'a dit
I dreamt of doing this very early on, but I had to be patient. So I sort of meandered before I reached this point where I can make my dreams come true, like today. So I've seen lots and lots of films. I'm steeped
de la cinéphilie
in
pendant
films
2 décennies.
For 2 decades. I watched films non-stop, and the references are totally subconscious. We're talking about it today at a festival like this. You can really talk about films in depth. I meet a lot of real cinema buffs. The references have to remain under the surface. These are references to my life, to what I think I should be doing in life. Otherwise, I would get the impression I was doing a sort of a school homework. I don't work like that. When the reference to something is too obvious, I usually help my assistant writer. I tell my assistant writer, well, stop, you take over.
Vous aviez une deuxième partie de question? Oui.
Merci beaucoup. Je voulais juste aussi poser une petite question.
I just wanted to ask a question to Pierre.
Will
we be able to see you dance in other films, maybe? I told you.
Nicolas m'a fait danser.
Nicolas made me dance.
J'avais jamais vraiment dansé. Enfin,
I never really danced before.
J'ai fait ma formation.
When I was in training, I had a little bit of training in dancing.
Mais ce qui est marrant, c'est, enfin,
what's really amusing is that
dans ce film, j'en ai entendu parler pour la toute première
heard about this film for the very first time through dancing. In fact, because we were shooting OSS 17
au fond d'une réserve kenyane où je dormais,
in the Kenyan wilderness. We slept a couple of meters from a huge alligator, and it was totally crazy. We left to work in the morning at 7 a.m., and there were giraffes and monkeys and zebras being chased by lions. It was totally improbable. So in the middle of the Kenyan wilderness, we would have a quick drink in the evening, not very late because we got up early in the morning. And one day I went back to my room, and there was a lot of music and noises of like that coming from the room, one story below. And I thought, gosh, we're going to start shooting at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. What's Nicolas up to? He's holding a huge party. What an idiot. I put earplugs in, tried to get to sleep, but it went on and on. The next morning, I felt really tired, and I said to Nico, maybe I'll change rooms, because that kind of party, well, he said, what kind of party? Can I be invited to your party? And he said, well, no, I didn't hold a late-night party in my room. I'm writing my next film. And I said, oh, with whom? And he said, oh, all by myself. And he put on the music, and he explained this to me because I dance, and there's a character called Adrian. He's a former dancer, and I wanted to work out how he's going to dance in the film. And I think said to myself, he's nutty, he's crazy. We were working on a film worth millions, OSS 17, and he's telling me that in the night he works on another script, and he's got a guy who's going to dance. He's going to mess up the whole OSS film. It's going to be a total disaster, a flop, both the OSS and this next film. The truth of the matter was that I said to myself, okay, that sounds kind of neat. And it's the first time that I'd heard about Adrian and his past as a dancer. And quite later, I said to him, well, where do you stand with your film? What about the casting? And he said, well, try it out. I think it's you. He sent me to Suzanne Meyer, a choreographer. She's quite exceptional. And she got me to dance in horse manure. Now let me explain what I mean. This was a choreography on the beach to start with, and when we were dancing and rehearsing in Paris, I said to her, well, if there's going to be sand, I'm not going to be able to dance in the same way. And she said, well, where should we practice? And I said, well, it's too far to go to the sea. I'm in the countryside. I live next to a place with horses. Let's go dance in the horses' sand. I didn't realize that there would be manure and other things mixed with the sand, but okay, it was a very charming experience. I don't know whether I'll dance again in a film, but I had a lot of fun doing it. It was contemporary dance, and it was lots of fun.
Vous accompagnez Nicolas, vous étiez avec lui pour son premier film.
You were with Nicolas for his first film, and I think the next one as well.
Parce qu'à chaque fois, il y a des points que l'on retrouve à travers ses films.
There are similar points in his films, but each film is a different kind of an adventure.
À chaque fois, en effet, c'est des aventures magnifiques.
Each time is a magnificent adventure. We've been very fortunate. We've been working together like friends for about 15 years now.
Déjà sur Adelman, nous, on était totalement, comment dire, fiers du film à
Adelman, we were really proud about the film. We were very pleased to have discovered such a great director in this first film, and he has his own style. It's a bit like what Pierre was saying. He writes beautiful lines and scripts. He's also quite a formal director. He takes great care with the sound, the music, each aspect of the film. It's very rare to find a director who knows how to do so many different things.
Moi que j'adore, enfin nous on est à chaque fois épatés, alors on est à la fois ses amis.
We're so amazed to see what he's capable of doing.
En même temps, oui, c'est des propositions uniques parce que
each of his films is a unique proposal. It's full of fun, romanesque, melodrama. That's his real signature. He has a very specific style, which I think speaks to huge audiences and many different kinds of people. With Mascarade, when he asked us to read the project, the first evening we talked together and thought, wow, that's really ambitious. It's very beautiful, it's packed with action and information, and it's fabulous to have this kind of a production. It's great to be able to take up these tremendous challenges, and we're all trying to live up to very high expectations. I adore working with everyone, with my partners, Pate, who's in the room, as distributor, TF1, Orange Studio, and others. They all thought, like me, we're going to make a fabulous film for the cinema. It's risky, but it's a huge source of pleasure. With a fabulous cast, like the one you see here, and a setting which is a real dream. The film was shot about 15 minutes from here. The costumes of the secondary characters are great. It's increasingly rare. So we were really keen to make this film. We got proposals from platforms, but we wanted to make the film for the big screen, for movie theaters. That's our main function. We thought we would be able to encourage spectators to go back to the movie theater by offering this kind of film. Also, being here in Cannes is a great experience. May I interrupt for a second?
Ça fait 5 heures que tu parles.
You've been talking for about 5 hours already.
Non, je veux juste parler.
I just wanted to talk about these two guys who are here.
Petite histoire intime, mais elle est importante parce que c'est ce qui
This is an important, fairly personal story because it's thanks to this that the film exists. They give me the amazing privilege of being totally free. François and Denise, well, I'm so very lucky to have them with me. Of course, in life, sometimes you choose the people who enable you to bring your dream, make your dreams come true. And I think this was the kind of film I was dreaming about. I was fantasizing about this film. I'm fortunate to be surrounded by people who really gave me their full support. Maybe I was insolent, maybe I was pretentious to offer the public such an intimate, private thing. I approached a certain number of people in the course of my life, and I found my right place, François and Denis. How can I put this?
Je suis un auteur.
I'm a writer,
un écrivain raté, et je le dis
a failed writer. I'm not saying this to make you smile. I'm saying this because it's the truth. I spent a year of my life working on a novel, and my former girlfriend said, well, forget it. Why don't you make a film instead? Maybe it's in a film that you express yourself best, because I was getting totally lost in the writing of this novel, this failed novel.
C'était un continent, Mascarade.
Mascarade is a whole continent. It covers a huge number of subjects, topics, memories. François and Denis give me the impression that I remain independent as a writer. That's very rare. They protect me from the industrial aspect of our profession, which is inherent in the profession of film writers. They have enabled me to feel free of commercial pressures. I get the impression I have a huge pen, heavier than that of a writer, because I have responsibility for all these people, but it's a huge pen that's enabled me to write this film, where you have such great actors and actresses. When I entrusted this story to François and Denis, they said, "Forge ahead, it's fantastic."
Bonjour, Caroline Vier de 20 minutes. J'avais une question pour Nicolas.
I have a question for Nicolas. Nicolas, what about the title of the film? Did you find the title before or after writing the script? And could you talk to me about it? And congratulations, first of all. The title appeared self-evident very quickly. In the dictionary, you can look it up, there's a definition which is quite coherent. It fits nicely with the film. There are two definitions for Mascarade when you look this up on a search engine. It's a masked ball. All the characters wear masks in my film, or did wear masks.
Sont dans cette incroyable ronde d'hypocrisie.
They're living in a state of total hypocrisy, which can be the case in life when you haven't got life under control. And it's also a big scam. So Mascarade is a word I like the sound of. I like the word Mascarade, maybe because it contains the word mascara. That's one of the first words which for me is linked to women and my mother. I hated mascara because when she said, "I'm going to put mascara on," it meant she was going to have dinner somewhere else and leave me for a couple of hours. And I didn't like that.
Et c'est un peu cette histoire-là. Je l'ai vécu d'ailleurs hier. J'étais relativement ivre, évidemment.
I was a bit drunk, of course. Yesterday, I was watching the evening, which went on, and it was just a beautiful follow-on from the film with all these characters.
Dans un bal masqué.
We were in a masked ball.
Mi-sincère, mi-faux cul.
People were half sincere, half hypocritical. I pretended that I hadn't had too much to drink.
C'est pas qui a fait 50-50, mais
il y a eu des petits espaces de sincérité.
There were a few times when people were sincere. They were fairly short.
Et je vais dire un mot sur la région que j'adore.
I'd like to talk a little bit about this region, which I love. I was born here. After this, I'll go back to a house that I bought in Saint-Paul-de-Vence. It's a region which is like the film. It's the main character in the film, in other words. It's a jewel, a very pure jewel that's been disfigured by men. I'm not saying that there aren't magnificent areas, pristine areas in the Côte d'Azur. Go to Théoul, where things are virtually untouched. But basically, Adrien was disfigured by his motorcycle accident, and he had to indulge in horrible amorous practices. Margot had been totally broken by male violence. Laura Morante plays a character with lots of dreams. Her ideal was totally broken by her companions. She even says this because she narrates the film at a given point in time. Emmanuel, François, they've been spared to a degree this exquisite suffering, this monstrous kind of a situation. this human comedy. So apart from them, who are a bit like us and who are narrators at the same time, everyone appears vile in the film. And I've gotten lost in my own sentence. Thank you.
Éric Schwald pour Sens Critique. Vous avez un peu anticipé ma question.
You anticipated on my question. I was thinking of your preceding films, Mr. and Madame Edelman, La Belle Époque, where you have lots of love stories and conflicts. I find these films very dark. How would you define love? What remains from these previous films? Well, some people said to me, well, something's wrong. But both instances are real. My view of love is as sincere in Mr. and Mrs. Edelman, La Belle Époque, and in Mascarade. It depends on the time. I've written or experienced both sides of the situation. Mascarade is a snapshot of a given moment in time. Maybe you're more solid, better armed than I am, but I think we live in rather violent times. I'm not, obviously, going to appear lighthearted, but I did write this story when I was very anxious. And when I was looking at it yesterday, I didn't feel it was dissimilar from me. I could identify with it. It says something about contemporary life and a situation which will no doubt continue into the future. I sense a great discord, social discord, sexual discord, and this is very deep-seated. Yesterday, I happened upon some young people who were totally into the film, but they said to me some things which were more violent than what is even said in the film. They had the impression, well, maybe they were indirectly paying me a compliment, but they fully grasped the film because they felt that they also were involved in the same situation. They envied and were angry with the preceding generation for having created such a situation that we now find ourselves living in. I think that it would be nice to live in a world without threats, without such demons. I always try every day to sort of get control back over the situation, but masquerades exist everywhere. Money, lies, disdain, fear, jealousy permeate society. That's the way it is. That's our world too. Nicolas, I have a question about the character portrayed by Isabelle Adjani in your film. She is an actress. The fact that she's an actress, well, you're talking about the cinema, is that a way of talking about the time that passes? Why is she an actress in the film? Because she is the echo of what I also sometimes think about our times in this region. In fact, the film is a global metaphor. She is the echo of the end of a certain type of glory. I'm sorry to be such a pain. We're at the festival, but I'd like to wind up with that sentence. I think that we are in the process of moving on to another way of experiencing the cinema and fame, or perhaps moving into something that's less mythological. Isabelle is a Martha who is the vibrant echo of a certain idea that we had of glory, which may sparkle less and less in the future. And that's perhaps not bad news. Maybe it's more right. Is it unfortunate? I don't know what to think. But this is gradually taking place. You can see it in our way of communicating, expressing ourselves, and going about things in terms of the world of culture. So the film carries this nostalgia of the past within it. This world of Cocteau, for example. It also depicts the nostalgia for a kind of cinema that I've tried to reawaken. People are very megalomaniac with Pierre, with Marine. They say, we still want to play this part. Mindful of the fact that the mystique belongs to the past. Thank you very much to those of you who have come to attend the press conference, and thank you to our guests. I'd like to say that the film will be released on the 1st of November.